You are not excited about dating anymore, and everybody around you wants to diagnose it. They call it burnout, walls, maybe even bitterness. They will tell you maybe you haven't healed enough or possibly healed too much. Maybe you're just afraid of getting hurt again. What they don't understand is what died was not your desire. It was the part of you that needed dating to mean something about your worth. There was a time where attraction felt electric because it carried consequence. Every interaction mattered. Every text felt loaded. Every first date came with a quiet hope that this one might finally fix something inside of you. Dating for you was not just about connection, it was about release and regulation. It was about proving you were wanted, chosen, and desired. And that pressure made everything feel intense, but it also made you incredibly easy to manipulate. Now that pressure is gone, without it, dating feels flat. Not because you're numb, but because nothing is being propped up by your fear anymore. You're not auditioning for safety. You're not bargaining for affection. You're not using chemistry as evidence that something has value. Your system isn't activated, and for the first time, you are not confusing activation with attraction. This is the part that nobody prepares women for. Healing doesn't make dating more exciting. It makes it quieter, and that quiet can feel wrong when chaos used to be your baseline. You keep waiting for that magic spark that doesn't come, not realizing that the spark you're looking for was never desire. It was adrenaline mixed with hope, mixed with self-abandonment. When those ingredients disappear, attraction has to rebuild on something sturdier. You're no longer dating because you need to, and this is where everything changes. Needing to date is when your life feels incomplete without someone reflecting you back to yourself. Wanting to date is when your life already feels full and you're open to sharing it, but not willing to contort it. Most women have never dated from want. They've dated from urgency, from loneliness they were taught to be ashamed of, from the belief that the partnership equals safety, from the quiet terror of being left behind. When dating stops being a need, the entire game will change for you. You stop tolerating ambiguity. You stop chasing momentum. You'll stop filling silence with effort. Men who rely on confusion to stay interesting suddenly feel painfully obvious. And instead of you leaning in harder, you actually lean back. Not as a strategy, as a reflex, because your nervous system no longer mistakes tension for intimacy. This is also why so many women in healing think something is wrong with them. They're not obsessed anymore. They're not fantasizing after one conversation. They're not willing to invest emotionally before they see consistency. They mistake grounded discernment for disinterest. But what's actually happening for you is that your system has stopped assigning meaning prematurely. You're letting people show you who they are before you decide how to feel. That is power. You're no longer impressed by charm without follow-through. You're not softened by words that aren't anchored in behavior. You're no longer moved by intensity that doesn't come with stability. And because of that, fewer people make it past the first few layers. Not because you're closed, but because you're selective in ways that you've never been before. Dating from this place can feel boring at first because boredom used to mean danger. It signaled abandonment. It meant nothing was happening, and nothing happening felt unsafe. Now, boredom for you is just neutral. It's space, it's time, it's the absence of pressure. And that neutrality gives you room to actually notice whether you like someone instead of whether they like you. This is where your standards also become a living embodiment. You're not reciting a list. You're watching how your body responds when somebody cancels. You're paying attention to how you feel after conversations, not just during them. You're noticing whether your energy expands or contracts around someone. You're not performing interest to keep things alive. You're allowing interest to develop organically or not at all. This is exactly why I created the Sacred Standards 30-Day Dating Reset. It's a challenge because this way dating doesn't happen by accident. It happens through practice. Through choosing differently in moments that used to hook you, through learning how to sit in neutrality without rushing to create excitement, letting alignment unfold instead of forcing momentum. It's training your system to stay loyal to itself even when attraction tries to pull you back into old reflexes. The women who move through this phase don't become colder, they become clearer. Their energy, their boundaries, their choices, they don't argue with themselves anymore. They don't need 10 reasons to walk away. One misalignment is more than enough, and they don't make it dramatic, they simply just leave. What you're experiencing right now isn't a disinterest in love. It's the death of the compulsive attachment. It's the end of chasing feelings that only existed to keep you bonded to uncertainty. And it's also the beginning of dating as a choice instead of a coping mechanism. And I want you to know that the excitement does come back, but it's different. It's slower, it's steadier, it's built through trust, safety, and mutual presence. It doesn't hijack your nervous system or make you abandon yourself. It certainly doesn't require you to shrink or perform or prove anything. It feels like layered interest with peace, not obsession layered with hope. So if you're in that in-between space right now where nothing excites you and everything feels optional, don't rush in to fix it. You are not stuck. You're learning how to want without needing, how to choose without urgency, and how to let desire come from safety instead of fear. That is not the absence of passion, that's the beginning of your power. And if you want support, learning how to date from a place without sliding back into old patterns, Sacred Standards is where we're going to practice this in real time. Not hypothetically, not conceptually, practically, daily, one choice at a time. We start on January 15th, and it's designed for women who are done dating from survival and ready to date from self-respect. You do not need to force excitement back into your life. You need to trust what your lack of urgency is trying to teach you. I'm Megan Webster. I'm an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, where survival ends, shadow becomes power, and you rise into the woman impossible to manipulate, magnetize, or replace. If you feel weird right now because dating isn't thrilling anymore, I want you to stop labeling it a problem. Stop handing it to the internet for something to fix. Stop giving your friends a list of reasons that they label walls. All this truly is your system refusing to perform for crumbs. You are not in a decline, you are in an upgrade. This episode is going to put language on the shift that happens after you heal, when you're not willing to do the old dance anymore. We are going to talk about why excitement disappears when you stop dating from lack, what your nervous system is actually doing when it feels neutral, the difference between wanting to date and needing to date, and what it looks like to build attraction from safety instead of fantasy. The moment dating stops feeling urgent, most women assume something has gone wrong. The nervous system has been trained to interpret urgency as aliveness, and aliveness as proof that something mattered. When that urgency fades, it creates a vacuum that's unfamiliar and deeply unsettling if your identity was built inside relational intensity. You are not missing desire, you're missing the emotional charge that once organized your attention, your hope, and your sense of direction. For years, attraction wasn't just attraction, it was orientation. It gave you something to move toward, fixate on, or interpret. Dating gave your emotions a job, and without the job, your system feels idle, and idleness can feel like emptiness when you've never been taught how to rest inside yourself without scanning for connection. This is why women who have done real healing often feel disoriented rather than relieved. The chaos is gone, but nothing has actually replaced it yet. So what you're experiencing isn't a loss. Your body is no longer assigning meaning prematurely. It's not collapsing into fantasy to create more momentum. It's no longer outsourcing self-worth to romantic potential. The recalibration phase feels flat because flatness is neutral, and neutrality has never been safe for women who learn to stay alert in love. Your system is learning a new baseline, and learning always feels awkward before it feels empowering. This feels like a threshold moment, the one where you either panic and recreate stimulation, or you stay long enough to let the attraction rebuild without fear driving it. Most women will never stay here. They mistake the absence of urgency for the absence of desire and go searching for familiar emotional hit. But this is the phase where discernment is born. Wanting replaces needing, where choice replaces compulsion. Needing to date doesn't sound dangerous on the surface. It sounds human and normal, like wanting connection. But when dating is driven by need, every interaction carries weight that it was never meant to hold. You're not just evaluating compatibility, you're evaluating your worth. You're not just enjoying the conversation, you're scanning for reassurance. You're not just open to possibility, you're trying to relieve an internal discomfort that partnership was taught to soothe. This is where women quietly abandon themselves without realizing it. When dating becomes a need, you tolerate confusion longer than you should. You soften boundaries to keep momentum alive. You reinterpret disappointment as misunderstanding. You stay curious when your body is already contracting, not because you lack standards, but because the cost of walking away feels too high when the connection has been assigned the job of stabilizing you. Wanting to date is different. It's not a rush. When your life already feels full, dating becomes the addition, not a solution. Interest is allowed to develop slowly or not at all. Silence does not feel threatening. You don't need clarity immediately because your sense of self isn't waiting on somebody else to define it. This is the shift from need to want that collapses your old dating game entirely. Situationships lose their appeal. You stop performing interest to be chosen because being chosen no longer feels like survival. You're not pulling away to create distance. You're leaning back because there's nothing for you to chase. One of my clients in the Black Cat Academy was having an experience dating online that felt normal. daily messages, voice notes, check-ins, the kind of steady contact that creates a sense of familiarity fast. After about a month, they started talking about meeting up, and this is where everything shifted. She had suggested meeting in a public place, something simple and reasonable, and he pushed back hard. He insisted only meeting at his house. When she explained that public felt safer for a first meeting, his tone changed. He got defensive. He asked her how on earth she thought he would make her feel unsafe after talking for so long, as if time alone equals trust. She showed me the messages, and on paper, someone could argue. They had talked for weeks. He hadn't done anything overtly wrong. There was no dramatic red flag until this moment. But her body said absolutely not. Not in a panicked way, in a very clean way. Her nervous system clocked the entitlement, the pressure, the way her boundary was being treated like an accusation instead of a piece of information. The safety was framed as an inconvenience to his desires. And instead of explaining herself again, instead of softening the boundary, instead of managing his reaction, she just blocked him. No follow-up, no apology, no performance to be nice, just a full stop. And that is what healing with discernment looks like. It's not super exciting, it's not butterflies, and it's certainly not hoping that it works out. It does look like when your body recognizes when someone doesn't respect your no, even if their words sound reasonable. It does look like choosing self-protection without needing proof. And it also looks like not waiting for danger to justify your exit. She blocked him because her nervous system did not consent. And that is the part where women are not really taught this. You don't need this big catastrophic reason to disengage. You don't need to wait until something bad really happens. You don't need to talk yourself into access because somebody invested some time. When you're no longer excited about dating, this is often why. Your body isn't bored. It's just no longer willing to override itself to keep the connection alive. That is not avoidance. That's alignment. And once you understand that, dating stops being about convincing yourself to feel something and starts being about listening to what your body already knows. There are a lot of destabilizing moments for women when they're healing, and it's realizing they no longer get pulled towards the same people that they used to. The intensity is gone, the mental fixation isn't present, and the urge to invest too early has also dissipated. And instead of recognizing this as growth, they actually question themselves. They assume something is wrong because attraction no longer takes over them. They confuse steadiness with apathy and restraint with fear. What's actually happening is that your system has stopped assigning meaning before evidence. You're no longer bonding through imagination. You're letting behavior arrive before emotion follows. And this can feel deeply unfamiliar if you were taught to feel first and evaluate later. Discernment doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up as a quiet pause, the lack of urgency, a willingness to wait without filling the space with something else. This is also where most women self-sabotage. They override the discernment because it doesn't feel romantic enough. They push themselves to feel more. They also give people more chances than what their body asks for. They can also mistake calm interest for boredom and return to dynamics that create friction simply because friction feels recognizable, not because they want the chaos, but because chaos once told them they were alive. Letting discernment lead requires tolerating uncertainty without rushing to resolve it. It means allowing attraction to grow through consistency rather than purely off of chemistry. Start trusting that interest built on safety will feel different than interest built on anxiety. And it certainly means you will also have a need to resist the urge to recreate an old emotional pattern just to feel something. This is where your power actually lives. It's not in a detachment, and it's not in performance. It's in restraint, in your pacing, in letting yourself be unmoved until someone shows you they can meet you without destabilizing you. That is not disinterest. That is self-respect, learning how to take a breath. Now, I want to talk to you about the opposite side of this, because healing doesn't just show up in who you walk away from. It also shows up in who feels unfamiliar when they're actually safe. And I talk about this a lot on my TikTok. What does healthy love feel like? What does a safe relationship feel like? My boyfriend did not activate my nervous system in the way past men have. He is calm and steady. He is reassuring without trying to convince me of something. He is very easy to be around in a way that initially registered for me as uncertainty, which was my own past coming up, my patterns. When he would offer to do things for me, my body didn't relax, it tightened. Not because he was unsafe, but my nervous system had learned that care always had a price. In my past, offers were rarely clean. Kindness was followed by an expectation. Calm was usually the prelude to pressure. So when he showed up in my life without rushing, without pushing intimacy, without asking me to define anything before I wasn't ready, I really didn't know how to interpret it. There was no chase to respond to, no emotional spike to try and organize myself around, no urgency telling me where I stood. And without realizing it, I had started scanning for familiar cues. Where's the hook? What's the shift? Where's the part where I have to manage, anticipate, perform? We actually talked about this last weekend. In the summer, I had told them I needed some clarity on what we were, not because something was wrong, but because the absence of the chaos left me unsure of how to read the connection. We were on the same page the entire time. There was no hidden agenda, no dating other people, no power play, no destabilization, and that was what made it feel so foreign to my wiring. Safe love does not announce itself loudly. It doesn't create intensity to keep you engaged. It feels like a steadiness in your chest instead of like a tight restriction. It feels like realizing mid-conversation that you're not being evaluated, like you can breathe in a different way and you're not bracing for the next moment that it'll get taken away. Healthy relationships also don't pull you forward with urgency. They give you permission to just be you, to settle. You're not decoding tone or tracking shift. You're not rehearsing conversations or scanning for danger. Your body isn't performing or preparing. It gets to be present. And at first, that presence can feel underwhelming if you learn that love requires a ton of effort. No spike to chase, no role to play, no problem to solve, just consistency. Someone showing up without you needing to earn it. And it took me a bit of time to settle into this, to really understand what safety felt like with somebody else. When you have a healthy connection, things like attraction arrive as relaxation, as warmth, as desire that doesn't need this strong urgency to exist. You stop dating from survival. This type of connection can feel different than before, and for some people that is dysregulating. And it's not because it lacks depth. Your nervous system is just taking a little bit longer to get on board with how your body feels. What I know now is safety just invites you in. And if your nervous system has spent years living on adrenaline, an invitation can feel like a lot or nothing at first. And it isn't nothing. Your body is just learning that connection doesn't have to cost you something. If you've been listening to this wondering why you're not excited about dating anymore, this might be why. You're not broken, you're not closed off, you're not incapable of desire, you're just no longer willing to confuse intensity with intimacy. The standards you carry are not a list to memorize. It's what you do when your body gives you information and you're tempted to override it. What you do when somebody cancels and you notice how they handle it. How you shift when a man speaks beautifully but moves nothing forward. How you hold when you feel the urge to chase and you choose to hold your own position instead. It's what you do when you realize you're performing interest to keep something alive that's not actually feeding you. This is where a lot of women fail, and I'm saying that with a ton of love. They think that standards are a personality trait, that if you have them, it's going to make you feel confident enough. They think standards are for women who are naturally strong. Standards are actually simply a practice. It is a nervous system decision. Standards are the moment where you stop pretending your discomfort is a flaw. I think that feeling nothing is one of the most misunderstood phases of healing, especially for women who are trained to equate emotional intensity with meaning. You sit with someone new and there's no rush, no spiral to secure the next moment. Your body doesn't light up and it also doesn't shut down. It just sits neutral. And instead of allowing that to breathe, you interrogate yourself. You ask what's wrong. You wonder if you're broken. You scroll your past for evidence that you used to feel more. Here's what neutrality is actually going to look like for you when you've spent years in relational chaos. You will leave dates without replaying every single word. You don't rush to tell your friends every single detail. You don't feel the need to check your phone for proof that you mattered. You go back to your life and you just stay there. The absence of obsession makes you uneasy because obsession once gave you direction. It told you what to focus on, who to prioritize, and who to orbit around. Neutrality gives you nothing to chase, and that can feel like a loss before it feels like freedom. Sometimes nothing is simply disinterest, and you're allowed to let that be true without turning it into a story about yourself. Sometimes nothing is your nervous system taking a breath after years of hypervigilance. Nothing is grief surfacing for how much of your past attraction was fueled by anxiety. And sometimes nothing is your body waiting to see if someone is consistent enough to earn access to a deeper feeling. None of these mean you're incapable of connection. They mean you're no longer volunteering to attach without evidence. This is where you'll stop asking yourself whether you feel excited and you'll start noticing whether you feel intact, whether you feel clear or more scattered after seeing someone, whether your body feels opened or braced, if your energy feels like it belongs to you or it's already being siphoned off. Nothing is not a verdict. It's a pause, and learning to respect that pause in the dating game is the most self-respect skill that you will ever build for yourself. And I talked about this earlier, but the excitement does come back when you've done the healing, but it doesn't grab you by the throat. It doesn't change your focus or collapse your boundaries. It doesn't demand immediate access to your time, your body, or your emotional world. It arrives quietly through repetition, reliability, and through moments that stack on each other without a spectacle. One conversation that matches the last, an action that aligns with the words, a follow-through that doesn't require reminding. This is the kind of attraction that grows because your body feels safe enough to want it. It's not sparked by mystery or withdrawal. It's built by presence. You notice yourself looking forward to someone without rearranging your life around them. You enjoy connection without feeling the urge to secure it. Desire stops feeling risky and starts feeling like an invitation. You're interested, but you're not gone. You're open, but you're still anchored. What changes the most is that liking someone no longer costs you yourself. You don't lose sleep, you're not shrinking, you don't inflate chemistry into destiny, and you let interest unfold at the pace of reality. And because of that, excitement becomes something you experience, not something that you chase. When clients share with me that they miss the passion, they're often missing the feeling of being pulled out of themselves. What they don't realize is that being rooted inside of yourself creates a deeper kind of desire. One that doesn't need drama to survive. One that doesn't collapse when there's a pause. One that doesn't need drama to survive, which is why dating feels optional for you right now. Yours is no longer outsourcing its aliveness. It's bringing you back home to it. If you are intentionally dating, you're not here to be picked. You're here to be met. You are not trying to flip yourself into somebody else to keep somebody interested. You are here to keep yourself so grounded that only alignment can stay. You are here to move like the woman who notices behavior and responds accordingly. The world will call this intimidating, but this is what women call peace. If you are listening to this and realizing you are not excited because you are no longer willing to bleed for attention, I want you to stop interpreting your calm as a problem. You are not bored. You are not bargain shopping for love. You are no longer building a relationship out of hope and nervous laughter. You're not failing at dating. You're refusing to abandon yourself to make it feel dramatic. This phase is powerful because it's the doorway to choice. When your life feels full, you stop letting men audition for the role of your regulator. When dating is optional, you stop accepting ambiguity as a personality trait. When you are not hooked by intensity, you start noticing character. When you do not need a man to mean something about your worth, you start wanting men who are worthy of being wanted by you. If this episode cracks something open in you, good. That means you're not just listening, you are evolving. Please share this with another woman who needs it. Hit follow so you do not miss the next one. Send me a DM on Instagram and tell me what landed the hardest for you. And I know that you are ready to build this in your real life instead of nodding along and hitting the save button, then repeating the same pattern next week. The Sacred Standards Dating Reset Challenge is for you. We start on January 15th. It is 30 days together where we have 2 coaching calls, daily standards to integrate, nervous system anchored decision making so you stop overriding yourself, a dating profile audit by me so your profile stops attracting the same dynamic in a new outfit, and messaging scripts with a red flag detector so you can filter early on instead of spiraling later. This is for the woman who has done enough healing to see your patterns and is ready to become the woman who ends it, moves through it, and understands it so her dating life no longer becomes chaos. You are not asking for more than you deserve. You're asking for what you should have required sooner. You can register below. The link is in our show notes. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, and if you're not excited about dating anymore, I've got you. The Sacred Standards Dating Reset is exactly where you need to be.